Welcome to another Doki Doki Card Fight deck profile. I'm Combo Paladin, and I'm here to share my personal build of my main deck, Sanctuary Guard Dragon Jewel Knights. While it is really not the strongest deck out there in terms of Royal Paladin standards currently, it is very consistent. After showing all the components, I'll be showcasing some of the combos typically used for the deck, and also sharing my personal combos that I've come up with thus far. Without further ado, let's get started. Of course, we are running a playset or 4 copies of Sanctuary Guard Dragon himself, being the main grade 3 boss you will want to ride into always, so you will guarantee your win con. He is quite powerful, with his first skill being constantly at 2 critical if your opponent is at grade 3 and you have a grade 1 rear guard in the back row. This automatically means you need to play Force 1. Most especially with his main skill, being a once per turn restand with Counterblast 1, resting 3 back row grade 1 rear guards, and ditching a card from hand, and giving 10k power to the entire front row. Essentially a front trigger to help boost your rear guards and make them more lethal. Sandguard himself is at minimum 33,000 if you have a marker under him, along with some boost from the main grade 1, which we'll get into later down the line. This type of skill would require going second, however, so it would be at most lethal. But it can still do damage going first, since more often than not, you will always have a full field, or at least have 3 grade 1s for his restand, and a double Vanguard attack is still strong with 4 drive checks. Next up for our supporting grade 3, a playset of Ashley. She works great as a rear guard, but also good as a backup Vanguard in case you couldn't get your Sanctuary Guard Dragon. Ashley's main premise is calling more units after she attacks to further extend your rearguard's chances of closing the game. You'd want her though as a rearguard to call more Jewel Knights for more attacks. Her first skill being at the end of battle she attacks, Soul Blast 2, set your deck for up to 1 grade 2 or less Jewel Knight and call it to rearguard. But if she's on the Vanguard circle, you call 2 instead of 1. Having her as a rearguard is vital for your possible kill turn, since you can have about 6 attacks with 2 Vanguard swings. You need 2 Ashleys on rear so you can call more Jewel Knights, which you can further boost with her second skill. Which is, when you ride or call over her, you can Counterblast 1 and give the new unit plus 1 critical. This helps to increase the strength of your grade 2s, and most especially if you ride Sandguard himself over Ashley, and since Sandguard is already at 2 critical the moment he enters the field, you Counterblast 1 and you have a triple critical Vanguard, all for just 1 Counterblast. Now Ashley as a Vanguard would have you prioritize what available rearguards you have in your front row, since she would be calling 2 units instead of 1. It's still a strong play since the strategy can be to eat away at your opponent's hand or diminish the rearguards that are vulnerable, so it's not too big of a loss if you need to ride into Ashley. Just make sure you at least have boosters to give triggers to, since you are calling new units after all in the front row. That's all for our grade 3s, moving on to our grade 2s. First we have a playset of Wigston, being the grade 2 of the ride chain if you want to call it. He is a solid ride target as well as a great rear guard. What really makes him important is his second skill. On van or rear, when placed, Counterblast 1, look at the top 7 cards of your deck and call up to 1 grade 1 from among them to rear guard and shuffle your deck. This is a big key to help in meeting Sandguard's conditions, as well as benefiting Wigston due to his first skill, the fact that he gains 5k for each grade 1 in the back row during your turn if your Vanguard is Sanctuary Guard, making him a 25k beater on his own, and 35k when boosted with Sandguard. Moving along, we are playing a playset of the grade 2 Jewel Knight Laylee. She is also a solid grade 2 ride if you want to boost your grade 3 Vanguard using her second skill. When she is rode upon or called over, you give the new unit plus 10k until end of turn, basically a temporary Force 1. This skill combined with putting a marker on your Vanguard, that's the free 20k itself, a total of 33k power with no cost at all. Her other skill, on attack, choose 2 normal units from your drop zone and put them at the bottom of your deck, Soul Charge 1, and she gains plus 5k. This helps in refueling the soul and also returning any Jewel Knight back for more search fodder with Ashley later on. Laylee's second skill is a means to boost your rear guards much like how Sandguard does, allowing them to hit over defensives. Plus, if you have a marker on the circle you initially had Laylee on, you are boosting it with 20k essentially free. Moving to our next grade 2, which has become a staple for every Royals deck upon release, being Absolute Blade Knight Livero. We play him at 3 copies for a balanced ratio of not hitting him too much to be a grade 2 ride, but still enough to see him so we can get our field quickly. His skill on Van or Rear, when placed from hand, very important to note, Counterblast 1, search your deck for any grade 2 and call it to an open rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. If you don't have any Counterblast to pay, you may use a Soul Blast 1 instead. Very powerful skill, but is still limited due to the fact that it only works when you call him from hand, and needing to have an open rearguard circle to get another grade 2, which is a good handicap as to not be able to spam his skill. Livero is a way for us to form our board as fast as possible. Usually you will want to call Wigston with him so you can get another +1. Downside is that needing to Counterblast for this, however you never really spend your Counterblast until about turn 3 onwards. Important to keep in mind here is that due to the fact that Sandguard needs a field, I highly advise not to use as much CB as possible from turn 1 to 2, since damage denial can be done to prevent you from getting a good field. Livero works great as a rearguard, but is still a good vanguard if you want early rearguards on the field, but since we only run a total of 3 grade 2 units, I highly recommend calling a Lily if you only have 1 CB to spend. It does help to prepare early soul fuel and boosting rearguard if needed. Now there is one other grade 2 that can benefit Sandguard, Knight of Chivalry Rabble. I've seen him ran over Livero, mainly due to his continuous skill of your back row rear guards not being able to be retired, and the draw 2 does help in seeing your pieces more. For me, I just prefer Livero due to how long I've been playing him in my build, but if you like Rabble it's fine, since they can be interchangeable depending on which ones you prefer in the end. That's all for our grade 2s, moving on to the most important grades for the deck, our grade 1s. An important note here, however, I am proxying certain cards I don't have yet, so a little disclaimer, which are the Great Researchers, Augustus, 2 Draw PGs, and 2 Heal Guardians. Starting off with Balazal, the grade 1 on the Ride Chain. Typical for Ride Chains in V nowadays, his first skill is on Vanguard. When placed, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, search for either Wigston or a Sandguard, and add it to your hand and shuffle your deck. Now what really makes him important is his second skill. On Rear Guard, when Sandguard attacks, you can give him plus 10k, and if you have no face-up cards in your damage zone, you countercharge 1. And this is a hard once per turn, as well with the word clause that follows after. Balazal is the key to keeping Sandguard's restand skill guaranteed, since not only does he power up your Vanguard, but also prevents damage denial. You need to make sure to always get Balazal in hand for your Sandguard turn, and being a great grade 1 ride entirely. Now, we have the grade 1 Jewel Knight Warvardus as well. Aside from being another search target for Ashley, she makes for a great ride target thanks to her second skill. When she's rode upon or called over, you draw a card, essentially being a second starter once you ride over her to grade 2, and hand refuel as well. Now for her Axe skill, this is what sells her on being arguably the second best grade 1 for the deck entirely. You Counterblast 1, choose a normal unit from drop and put it to the bottom of your deck, Soul Charge 1, and have any Jewel Knight gain 5k. And this has no limits as you can see, which means you can repeat her skill as much as possible with any available Counterblasts. She works great in keeping yourself at no face-up damage to help Balazal proc better, and also being a Counterblast aider if you manage to at least have a minimum of 3 face-up Counterblasts to be spent. Depending on your game state, you only want to do Warvardus' Axe skill once or twice. A very solid grade 1, not just for Ashley, but for the deck overall. Next is our standard grade 3 searcher, Sisylas. Basically our generic searcher for Ashley, Sandguard, or our Heal Guardians because we do run them. Great to have if you somehow whiff Balazal on getting Sandguard, or we just need a grade 3 normal unit to ride. Also makes for a good beefsteak actually if you can't get your grade 2s by any chance, since you always would have face down cards with Sandguard. All the grade 1s presented thus far are all being played as playsets, and now this next grade 1 is a floating spot, which can be replaced by any grade 1 that works for you, but just keep it at this amount. For our last grade 1, I'll run 2 copies of Augustus, which is the new grade 1 that came out from the Clan Collection line. While he is meant more for builds like Gancelot and Alfred in general, due to his first skill, what we focus on is his second skill. Once per turn on a back row rearguard circle, at the end of the battle let your vanguard attack, stand this unit. This skill has saved me from many clutch turns, because even just the extra 8k helps to get over defensive triggers, especially against Excel and Protect. I've also consulted other players about the interaction between Augustus and Sandguard. Since they proc at the same time, it's always important to proc Sandguard first and then your restand Augustus. You never want to boost with him during the battle phase, since it wouldn't allow Sandguard to proc at all, and ideally, you at least want one of him to be a booster for Ashley, Wigston, and Lily on your rear guards. 8k may not seem much on paper, but when it's in action, it will really help you get over defensives, helping you to further win the game. That's it for our grade 1s, now for our grade 0s and triggers. Starter is just a generic. I run Milius just for the sake of making my opponent think I'm playing Opmile. Mind games even before the game starts. I always say, any starter works, this is just my choice. Now for our triggers, we are running the standard 8 crit, 4 draws, and 4 heals. You can go more aggressive with 12 crits, which I have seen in other deck builds in the past, if you really want to end the game as soon as possible, especially when against decks that can stall or has a type of field control like Narukami, Nobutama, and Kagero. 12 crit works too, even though it's sacrificing the draw power it provides. It provides an edge to Sandguard, who is already at base 2 crit himself, and especially with Ashley's own place over skill, 12 crit builds can be more lethal. It all comes down to your preference, whether you want your build to be more lethal or remain balanced in terms of offense and defense, and it is pretty flexible on what trigger ratios you want for crits and draws. For our heals, I am playing half and half heals, where I play the new Heal Guardians and the normal 20k vanilla heals here. The heal guards are just there to make sure I don't get damaged in their early game too much, and it does prevent me from getting rushed by certain decks who can really do a lot as early as grade 2. It is also searchable with Sisylas due to the fact that it is a grade 3. 20k heals help to be a single card guardian in situations against all gift types, especially when against Excel and Protect. The extra 1k that Force Cleanse have can really save you the trouble of needing to use 2 guardians. With the deck out of the way, let's get to the combos.
Stop, we're gonna try and see and think of what your typical Mulligan should look like when playing this deck, which would usually, my preferred starting hand is having at least like all the right chains in my hand, which includes 1 Balzal, 1 Wigston, and 1 Sentry Guard, and honestly any of the units within the deck, but most preferably has to be Sisylas and Levero for my one other grade 1 and grade 2. And I actually usually riffle shuffle 8 times and just cut once. I don't really do the 1, 2, 3 cut method for this. Also, just a disclaimer, this playmat is custom made and it's not licensed by Bushi. The design here was like, I only took like a stock image of Minerva Reverse from Google and just like made it into this design. So just a disclaimer. Now we shuffling. I lost count already, so we should count this at 6, 7, and 2. Cut once. Great. See what our starting hand is. Ooh, not that bad, but we're definitely gonna be returning triggers. Assuming this is going first, we're gonna redraw 2. 1, 2. Okay, that's not too bad. We have no grade 3s, but we'll definitely get it with Balzal and Sisylas once the game starts. We're just gonna showcase what is like the preferred ride going, at least with how I do with the deck. Let's see, shuffle 7 or 8 times again and cut once. No. And but like this. Santa Vanguard, so and draw. I think we can rep Balazal for this for like the best chance of getting Sanctuary Guard. Actually prompt Balazal first, just to prevent getting like drawing into triggers, which it does happen. So just like let's just prevent getting triggers out too early. Now we're gonna proc his skill first, which is check top 7 for Leaston or Sanctuary Guard, but that's 6 already. And then 7. Get lucky. Oh, there we go. Sanctuary Guard, so we're pretty much safe for the rest of the turn since we do have a guaranteed ride for Sanctuary Guard. 4 and cut. Then we draw. That's it for like the showcase of what the Mulligan should look like. Now we're gonna be going to the actual combos used for the deck. Okay, so now let's actually get to showcasing how you would play this deck. So this is a showcase of a example of going first. This is our turn 3, and we already have we already wrote Sanger, get a force 1, and then what you're wondering why there's a D6 with a 1 dot on Sanctuary Guard is because we actually rolled over Laylee, so we used her skill to give Vanguard plus 10k, so he's currently sitting at already at 33k on his own. But so as you can see, this is a board. We're missing quite some units to actually get a good board. And from hand, I actually have Livro, so we'll call him over here. And we also have Balazal and Augustus to prepare already for this turn. Getting Livro skill, kind of +1, getting grade 2, which will be Winston. And don't forget to shuffle Earth Livro skill. And shall. And then Winston skill will proc because it doesn't matter if you place him from hand or deck. We're gonna kind of +1, getting a grade 1 for the top 7. 1, 2, 6, 7. Okay, we will be getting more for this. Hold that there. And now our formation is pretty much complete for Sanctuary Guard to be procced. Again. So this looks pretty much complete, but you can do something with the leftover CB that you have, as we can see here, with actually using more for this skill to at least feel the soul early for a Ashley turn, which will possibly come next turn. And since we actually have a few good units in the drop zone here, we'll be using her skill to kind of +1, bottom decking Sisyllus, bottom deck, then Soul Charge 1, Evero, and this would actually just give 5k to herself because she's the only Jewel Knight in the field, but it wouldn't matter because we're have to ref anyway. And then, not gonna forget Winston's skill of excuse me, of actually gaining 5k during your turn, or my turn, for each grade 1 in the back row because my Vanguard is Sanctuary Guard, so that's plus 15k. So he's currently sitting at 25k. Now we can actually begin battle phase. Always swing with first, and now Balazal will actually proc skill when Sanctuary Guard attacks. You can give him plus 10k, so that's already a 43k Vanguard with essentially no cost. And its skill also procs. Since we don't have any base of damage, we countercharge 1. Assuming our opponent no guards, going to do Twin Drive first. Oh, that's nice. And we'll be giving power to Livro because he actually doesn't get any boost aside from the front trigger. We'll actually have like 2 normal units. I think we can grab Ashley. Then, second check, another heal trigger, assuming both are still equal damage. We're gonna heal again, and I think we can give power to Winston here, and we recover 1 again. Now, since this is only like a turn 3 going first, the critical is actually not active quite yet, so this is only 1 damage. But we still use a skill of kind of +1, resting in the back row, 3 grade 1 row, and we will discard 1. Then Sangard restands, and from August plus 10k. And then Augustus skill will proc since he is rested and our Vanguard attacked. We're gonna restand him. Then once more, repeat, attack, assuming they PG'd because it can be quite lethal if I pull more triggers. So they PG'd, assuming. Good. Check to drive again. First, there's a critical trigger. You can actually give either of the power-ups to your front row workers, but in this case, we're gonna go with Winston to give him the power and the critical because he's actually much bigger than Giver at the moment. Second check, that's Ashley. Now we're gonna swing with this first. We're already at magic numbers because we boosted 20k on this with the first heal trigger, so that's and the front trigger from Sanctuary Guard skill. So this is currently sitting at 30k plus 8, that's 38k. And then Winston, crazy ass number. So we boosted him already with the first heal trigger, then the front trigger, then another critical trigger, sitting at 2 crit. That's plus 30k plus 15, that's 45. This is a total of 55 with 2 criticals. Now this is what your turn 3 going first typically looks like, and it's not much it's not much, but you're still attacking twice with your Vanguard because you can actually just make up for it with Basil if you just had no face-up damage. Then assuming you actually got like 2 counterblasts because more often than not, I've said before, you don't really like rush with this deck, so most likely you'll actually just be given damage that early. So this is what your turn 3 going first typically looks like, and then we actually proceed to what a possible kill turn would look like. Alright, so we now have your possible kill turn with 2 Ashleys in the front row and us managing to reride with Zangar getting that second force marker. And now since it's most likely turn 5 or so with you, both of you and your opponent being 3, Zangar's critical will now become 2, which will let me get a dice in here. And now we can start preparing for the kill turn by actually making use of Morphinus here with the amount of CB that we have. We're going to use 1 Counterblast. Choose a excuse me. Morphinus because All Fodder for these Ashley. Bottom decker. And Orange Lily. Bit unfortunate, but you give this Ashley K, that 18k, and we can actually get started on battle phase. Now we'll use this Ashley first to try and chip off some of their hand with just 18k, and now after she attacks with skill 2 Soul Blast 2, Ukulele, to Superior Call a Great Roulette, which always is to be healing. Call over her, and then her skill will proc with Ashley. That's the one. Give this Lily plus critical here. And next, this Ashley, both for 23k this time. And assuming they guarded because this is possibly them trying to not catch any lethal attacks because they may, assuming we're there at 5 damage. Then Soul Blast 2 again. We're gonna use the skill 2 once more. Get a... Oh goodness, we ran out of ladies already, so we have no choice but to make use of more sadly for this, but still gonna be 2 critical with Ashley's skill, giving it. Because you're also filtering out the deck with getting out, and this will go up so much more. And now, finally, going for a Vanguard swing, just 23, right? Then Bowser's skill again, plus 10k, 33k, and plus 4 counter charge 1. Assuming they still manage to PG, we're gonna do Twin Drive. First, Entry Guard. Second, Morphinus, blanks there, but we still use the skill. Counterblast 1. Resting in the back row. Part of wasting from hand. Restand. This was also restand. And front row gets plus 10k. And we're gonna swing once more with 33k. And they still managed to PG this, or hard guard for no pass. Drive again. First, another critical trigger. Ooh, but tricky. I think we can give all the effects to really getting a triple critical. Second check. Draw trigger, that's nice. Either of these two are quite lethal already, so I think we're gonna give the power to Morridus here. Then we're turn. Draw for draw trigger. We already gave our Rigos first. Now we'll attack this first with skill, putting these two back to the deck. You're still gonna need it. And just in case we somehow don't kill them this turn, Soul Charge 1. Bit fortunate, but this is triple critical. 30, this is about 35 actually with triple critical. But this one though, assuming they manage to hard guard this is still lethal at. Okay, this is 1, 2, this is I'm already at 10, 28 crit plus 8. This is 46 with 2 crit, and this most likely they'll actually have to take it, and that would be GG. And that's how you would want a freaking what's the word? A expected kill turn using this deck with making use of 2 Ashleys, as I said before, and building up soul if you can using Morridus in the early turns. Now, after this, I'm going to be showcasing some auxiliary combos that will possibly come in handy in certain situations depending on what you have for resources. Okay, so now we're going to be showing a turn 3 going first again, but this time we're actually going to be preparing a much bigger attack, which is going to be a triple critical Sanctuary Guard Dragon, because we rode Ashley first, and Extended is under the soul. We don't get any plus 10k from Lily, unfortunately, but we'll still try to last 1 turn, just staying on Ashley. This is the risk of like staying on Ashley, because you actually don't get like 4 drive checks with how you would do this combination, which I would only like advise if you can try to like preserve as much like hand cards as possible with this combo that I'm about to show. So you see I called down Morvidus and Lily from my hand, and we did use like Wigston's Counterblast to bring a Bowsel to the field. Now we're just gonna be attacking with this column first, which is gonna be like 28k only. Then we're gonna swing with this with Ashley for 21. Now, assuming they know guards, this is only just gonna be at least only a free attack turn for the time being, sadly, because we don't have a third column here. So we're gonna try, assuming they got guard first, second, Sanctuary Guard, okay. And we'll use Ashley's skill to Soul Blast 2. Then we're going to get another pair of these two, which will be another Lily and another Morvidus. Then we shuffle. All overskills will proc. Because they're on standby. And their proc, this will get plus 10k. This will allow us to actually draw 1 more card. It's like a bit of a payoff, or like just bit like refilling your hand to say the least. Now we'll attack again. This time we can bottom deck. I think we can bottom deck another Link and Morridus, sake of getting as much call fodder later on for this. Then Soul Charge 1. Crit. Fortunate. That was total of, this is like 30k. 35 plus 8. 43. Like magic numbers already. Now we'll pass turn. And assuming you want to hit Lily, gonna let it be. This is just fine because it's more like, let's see, like soul fodder to help with getting the soul later on, because we did use Soul Blast 2, so we only have like 2 soul left for the time being. You can still use more Rizzling on for this. Now, say they're attacking with Vanguard, you're gonna take 2 damage. Nothing. Wow, nothing. And they're gonna swing again. I think we can charge with this and this. Okay, stand and draw. Now we finally get to Sanctuary Guard, and again another first one. This time we'll use Channel plus 1 to give him +1 critical, going for a triple critical Vanguard this turn. So essentially, with how you would do this, like this combination, is just like this. Like, well, how would you do to form your board again? Is just how I showed in like the first 3 combos of forming a board using the Libero and Wixton combo, and you would just like attack as normal here, but with more lethality at like 3 critical, because your opponent is now a grade 3, and you're both equal numbers, and here also have a grade 1 like rear guard. So this sort of 2 crit the moment he enters the field, and now +1 critical. That's 3 critical, which will actually restand. Now you can just do the normal like Libero plus Wixton combo, because you actually still have 2 effects of Counterblast, and I did drew another Libero from the Morphinus draw from earlier, and now possibly this could be our last combo for the time being. I would show more, but this would prolong the video way too much, so this is possibly the last combo I will show just for this deck profile.
Okay, so that's the whole deck profile. And overall, Sanctuary Guard Dragon Jewel Knights is a fun and consistent deck, as I've said before. Not the strongest, but still very fun to play. And I hope you all enjoyed this deck profile that we showed for the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content from Doki Doki Card Fight Club. And may you have a good day. And this is Combo Artist Paladin, signing out.